Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, November 18th City Council meeting. Trish, please call the roll.
Alderman Santee.
Here.
Alderman Glad.
Here.
Alderman McClatchy.
Here.
Alderwoman Bassey. Here. Alderman Davis.
Here.
Alderman Cook.
Here.
Alderwoman Miller.
Here.
Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this evening we're going to start with public comment. This is for items that are not on the agenda this evening. However, there is Jessica Bedwell that needs to get home, so you're not going to be able to stay for the whole meeting. So we'll go ahead and have you come up for public comment regarding Landmark. And if you could hit the middle button there for the mic to be turned on. Please state your name and address for public record.
My name is Jessica Bedwell, and I live at 4602 West North Fox Lane. I do appreciate you allowing me to speak during public comment. My daughter is sick, so I would like to get home to her. So I apologize I cannot stay for the entire meeting. I'm here tonight to ask City Council to give the Landmark School Building official and documented landmark status. This 130-year-old building is the foundation of our downtown district and a founding pillar of our community. While it is a true shame, a terrible loss, that McHenry is closing its top-performing school that is housed within this building, it would be equally a tragic loss to see this historic building torn down or modified beyond recognition. This is a building that has withstood the test of time and is a common unifier amongst many generations. Stories from within the landmark walls have been passed down for many generations. And while our downtown district has seen much change over the last several decades, the landmark building has held strong and true to McHenry's history and character. This building sets the standard for character and should be not only preserved, but used as an example of what we want the future of our downtown district to look like. The history of this building, as well as its architectural significance, make it a building well worth preserving and deserving of landmark status. I hope City Council makes the right decision tonight to cement Landmark's standing within our community. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak, and I hope you all make the right decision this evening.
Thank you. Tracy West. Once again, please hit that center button, state your name and address for public record.
My name is Tracy West. I live at 515 Wedgewood Trail. I am married. I have two daughters, ages 16 and 12. On November 12th at approximately 3:50 p.m., my daughter Piper was in a car accident at the corner of Dartmoor and Curran. While attempting to turn left from Dartmoor to Curran, she was T-boned at roughly 40 miles an hour. Luckily for us, she was driving my Subaru, which I believe saved her from severe injuries, if not worse. The next day, on November 13th, in the very same location, there was another accident. I did try to find the specifics of this accident, but haven't been able to do so. From what I hear, it was not as bad as my daughter's. On December 8th, 2023, Moira Arjona was crossing Curran at Dartmoor on her bike and was hit by a pickup truck. Due to her injuries, Moira was flown to Lutheran General Hospital. Thankfully, she recovered. Along with these accidents and others I am not mentioning, our neighborhood Boone Creek sign has been hit and damaged by cars on more than one occasion. I have tried to cross Curran multiple times where cars have ignored the flashing lights to stop. I have been alone, with friends, and with my children. My 12-year-old is not allowed to cross there, ever. If she wants to meet friends at Shamrock Park, I drive her. It's not that I don't trust her. I don't trust the drivers that are too self-absorbed or in too much of a hurry to stop and watch. Yesterday, while running errands, I stopped at the line on Dartmoor before I turned left onto Curran. The line of sight looking south is almost non-existent from where the line is drawn before the crosswalk. You must inch out pretty far to see cars coming. Then there's the obstruction of the corn in the summer when you try to go straight across the other way. When I sit back and think of how much worse these accidents could have been, it makes me sick to my stomach. I know this has been discussed before. Neighbors have even spoken to our alderman. We were told there is enough traffic to warrant a light. What about new houses that are being proposed for the area? What about water? Curran is used as a pass-through to get to Crystal Lake, to get to Bull Valley, to get to the other side of town. I find it difficult to believe that there isn't enough traffic, especially during peak times, early in the morning, and from 4 to 6 p.m. in the evening. But even if that is true, this isn't only about the amount of traffic. It's about it being dark there at night. It's about the trees on the southeast side of the intersection that causes a big blind spot. It's about drivers not following speed limit and sign. There is a legit walking path that connects Boone Creek to Legend Lakes. Walkers and bikers are expected to safely cross the street where the speed limit is 40 miles per hour without a light. Cars are expected to turn left safely with trees obstructing our view unless we inch out. I can think of reasons why inching out is unsafe. Just think winter and cars sliding on that turn. I've done it. Drivers speed on Current all the time, enough so that 4 years ago there was a speed limit monitor put up for a few months. 4 years ago. I used to see officers patrolling and watching, but lately that has been less and less. How many more accidents do we need before something is done? Stoplight, four-way stop, whatever. This may sound dramatic, but are we waiting for someone to die? While my car was totaled, my daughter came out of her accident with a small airbag burn on her cheek, sore ribs, and a couple of bruised knees. Next time, the person may not be so lucky. I implore you to think about the safety of us drivers, walkers, runners, and bikers. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Tracy. Any others, John Smith? Not speaking right now? Okay. Chris Moore, would you like to speak now? Yeah, if you'd like, or you can, it says landmark budget, so I don't know if you wanted to wait for a landmark item, or is that totally separate?
Totally separate?
So then you can go ahead and speak now if you like.
Okay, for the landmark budget?
Yeah, it says budget, I don't know what you're,
But for the levy? Yeah.
oh, so the
Yeah.
levy is the budget part that you put on here?
Yeah.
Okay, so you could go ahead and just do it during the items if you want. We'll wait and do it during both items.
That's fine.
Thank you. And Jeff Varda will wait for yours as well. Is there anyone else that would like to make a public comment? That is items that are not on the agenda this evening? All right. Moving on to consent agenda items 5A through 5E. Is there any items that the council would like to pull for separate consideration? Alderman Cook?
I like 5A.
Thank you. Next, any other items? I see none. Looking for approval to, for a motion to approve 5B through E. Alderman Miller?
I'll make a motion that we approve 5B through E as presented.
Thank you. Second? Alderman McClatchy?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion on these items? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Alderman Glad?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bassey?
Yes.
Alderman Davis?
Yes.
Alderman Cook?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Next item on the item that was pulled on the agenda is 5A, is a resolution establishing the date and time of Monday, December 16, 2024, at 7 p.m. for conducting a public hearing for establishing the 2024 City of McHenry property tax levy in the amount of $3,112,374, and upon closing the public hearing, the consideration of the 2024 property tax levy ordinance in the amount of $3,112,374. Alderman Cook?
Yeah, bringing this up. When we had the discussion last meeting, to raise that 1.2%, does that include in on this, the levy?
This amount is the 1.2% increase, yes.
It is?
Yes.
Is there a way that we could earmark that 1.2%?
We can, that would be something we would do during the budget process.
Okay. As it stands right now, what goes right to the general?
So we don't collect this money until next fiscal year.
I understand that.
So during the budget process, we could earmark the money for whatever you guys would want.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
That's all I have.
Any other questions, comments? Alderman Sandy?
Yeah, just with this tax amount, what's the estimate that does come to the city for this? The total that would be coming into the city.
The
The
3.1.
The increased portion. 38,000.
38,000, 38 something.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? All right. Looking for a motion to approve. Alderman Sandy?
I'll make a motion to approve 5A as presented.
Thank you. Second, Alderman Cook?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Santee,
Yes.
Alderman Cook,
Yes.
Alderman Glad,
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy.
Yes.
Alderwoman Basse,
Yes.
Alderman Davis,
Yes.
Thank you, council.
yes.
Sorry. Thank you, council. Next item on the agenda is 6A, is a use variance at 1860 North Richmond Road. I'm looking for a motion to pass an ordinance granting a use variance to allow an expansion of self-storage facility mini warehouse at 1860 North Richmond Road. Alderwoman Miller?
I'll make a motion to approve a variance for expanding the self-storage facility at 1860 North Richmond Road.
Thank you. Second? Alderman Santee?
I will second the motion.
Thank you. Discussion on this item, City Council? Alderman Santee, go ahead.
So, with the passing of this, if it passes this variance, when I looked at the drawings, I just wanted to understand where there's actual space between that building and their ownership, the owners or the building to the south of Extra Space?
Yes.
Okay. And in regards to the outer storages, is it safe to say that they have to be supplying some type of security, or does security work for that?
The petitioner's here, if I misspeak, Steve, you can jump up. It's no different that you have a lock and you are responsible for your own security. So they're outdoor. This was, something similar was approved at U-Haul. You look across the street, it's the same type of, operation. Got a garage door, close the garage door, you put your lock on it. You come by, a lot of contractors use these, so they'll come by, pick up their tools, lock it back up, go to a job site. When they're done, they come back, whatever. So, and it's lit.
Okay, and just nod, or if you know, Ross, security cameras are going to be positioned into that area?
They're
Okay.
already out
They're
there.
out there, okay. All right, thank you. That's no further questions.
Thank you. Go ahead, Alderman McClatchy.
Thank you, Mayor. I was all for this, when they first started. I thought it was a good idea, having a drive-through, and it was all indoors. But being outdoors and having these pods outside, I think it's just gonna look cheesy and not what the city wants. There was a property right across the street that came before us, and they wanted pods along the side, and it just didn't fly. So I'm, keeping it inside, I'm all for that, but as soon as you go outside, I'm against it, so.
Any other questions, comments by council? Alderman Cook?
Is there a second floor to this? You have your garages on there and then, smaller units above it? Okay, I didn't see that on there, so I thought I'd ask.
Ross?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. So U-Haul across the street was approved, and if you look, they have this same similar operation happening across the street. Now, they're still in the process of building, so it's a very similar thing.
I understand that. I probably would have voted against that, too.
Gotcha. I just wanted to clarify.
Any other questions, comments? Alderman?
Yeah. Number one, on the pods, I wasn't happy with the pods that happened over at, across the street, and basically, the way it was presented, when you looked at the plat, then shame on me, I guess, because I guess what was assumed versus what actually happened out there. Because if you remember, I called you when those pods went up, complaining about them, and that's when you told me that they were on the original plat. They were not added in later. They were part of the original plat when it got approved. Yeah, I'm not in favor of these. I don't think if they were somewhere, fenced off, out of the way, not out in sight. We've got a beautiful building that was built in the outlot over there, and you expect these things to be right there next to it. So I can't get behind that. Now, as far as the 5,400 square feet, we're talking building out on that building, correct?
Correct.
Okay, because some people said, oh, well, it's just expanding what's in the buildings, and it isn't. Looking through that, I didn't see any engineering as far as drainage.
Well, this is just to approve the use. They don't have a building permit. There's no building permits in yet. In fact, Steve, if you want to step up to the microphone.
Yeah.
The expansion areas in blue, I believe, are going to happen immediately once approval happens, but the expansion area to the east, or I'm sorry, to the north, that the hash mark on the plan, not going to happen immediately. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right, but I'm talking the south, the east,
They'll be required to submit to us.
southeast.
Yeah.
And my concerns are, you're building this out closer to the, there's two sewers back there.
It's already
Without a
impervious,
drainage-
though.
I'm sorry?
It's already impervious.
Not all of it is.
It is.
Not all of it is.
These two sections here
That
are.
little corner, strip back there between the two buildings is not impervious. But anyway, all I'm saying is I still think we need, some kind of a, drainage survey, engineering, whether it's impervious or not, because that roof is going that much closer to those drains. Are the drains gonna be able to handle all of that drainage out of there? And if not, where's that water gonna go? It's not gonna go to the detention pond, it's gonna go to the back lots of people that live off of, behind there, as far as the single-family homes.
If you
So
like,
that's my
I could
concern
answer
there.
a couple of those questions.
Without an engineering study on that, I couldn't get behind that as well, so.
I mean, if the
those are my
engineering doesn't
concerns.
work, then we don't approve it. As city staff, that's what our job is to do.
No, I understand.
You're
but
just
asking
approving the
me-
use.
You're asking me then to approve it blindly because I don't have all the information.
To-
If I don't have all the information, how can I vote for it?
Steve?
Okay? I mean, you take it on my, if I say yes today, it's taken out of my hands, and yes, I have to rely on you, and yes, I do rely on you on a lot of decisions, on a lot of things for us, but, it's still the fact that if I'm voting for something, I'm not voting for something that I have no control on afterwards, unless I have all the facts ahead of time.
Steve Schwartz, go ahead.
Steve Schwartz, 1860 Richmond LLC, address 2207 Patriot Boulevard. Stand before you to answer any and all questions. In terms of the design and engineering that you're speaking of, the blue areas, the added section to the west and to the south and potentially to the north, all that has to be properly engineered. It's always subject to final engineering in its design. We are working with H.R. Green, who worked with us in the first instance for not only the outlots, but also the work that was done on the building, the grading. There's a small section between two buildings you're talking about that's less than a half an acre. All this will be compliant with the stormwater conveyance and calculated so that nothing that we do would be non-compliant or wouldn't be either handled through the roof, properly tied into the drain system, and covered. So all that would be properly and responsibly addressed. So there's no concern. This is typical design and engineering 101 sort of thing. And so I'm confident knowing that not only is it principally impervious throughout, but if we needed to remove some part of the asphalt or do something to accommodate, that's all part of our discussions, H.R. Green. So every aspect of it will be accommodated and addressed
Well, like I
appropriately.
said, without that engineering, I can't see getting behind it totally. I mean, I think it's a good concept of what you want to do, but as far as back there, but without the drainage concern that I have, I don't want to, I can't see supporting it at this point in time. Thank you.
Alderman Miller?
Thank you. I support the request for the variance. I think the additional space on the building, obviously your marketing has worked because you're full, so you need additional storage units, and people have stuff. Every storage facility in town is full. So I think where you're going to put the drive-up units out in the underutilized parking lot would be aesthetically pleasing behind the wellness building, because they use the front of the building, versus behind Panera, that there's a drive-through and it wouldn't be as aesthetically pleasing. So I support the request. If your business plan requires more units, I'm in favor of that, and of course I'll allow our city staff to review your engineering, and I would expect you be held to the highest standard.
100%.
Thank you.
Alderman Sandy?
I guess I'm just kind of looking at a big picture here, is that we get these variances from time to time, and we need to make a decision. We need to vote on it for a business to move forward or to not move forward. And we have people hear every night at council meeting, that are fully employed staff members who need to follow these procedures, need to do correctly what's been written and what's on the variance and what the steps are. I know that we've done multiple variances like this, knowing the fact that there's engineering to be done, there's landscaping to be approved, many other items that we rely on staff and pay them a good chunk of change to do their jobs. Because if they don't do their jobs, and there's a mistake on something like this, where there is a drainage problem in the future, it is on the city of McHenry. And, people could lose their positions. So I appreciate what these staff members have done for us and what they do on a daily basis. They're here, they're the ones that review the documents. They're the ones that need to talk to the engineers. They're the ones that need to talk to the other contractors that have to take care of this. They have to finalize it. They've been doing it. It's the way we've been operating for as many years as I can recall, even prior to being on the board, just watching it and watching these approvals go through. And it's the nature of the process. This is an A, B, C thing, and this is one of the A's and C and D in regard to the next steps have to be done. If they can't do it, or it's not going to, if it's approved and can't be engineered correctly, he's done. Steve's got to figure out some other way to find space. Move to, go to another community and put some more space in too. But, that we have to rely on these people. That's all I have. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments by council? Open up for public comment for this item. Is there anyone from the public that'd like to make a public comment? All right. See none. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Sandy?
Yes.
Alderman Webb?
No.
Alderman McClatchy?
No.
Alderwoman Bassey?
No.
Alderman Davis?
No.
Alderman Cook?
No.
That item fails.
Can I make a statement?
Sure.
With all due respect, and I appreciate obviously your time and consideration, there seems to be a disconnect in the process here, as mentioned by the alderman. In terms of coming before the process and doing this religiously, we obviously brought forth Popeyes. We worked to bring the two-tenant building. I worked on the OEA for over 9 months to provide for the shopping center's renewal with Harbor Freight. And again, that doesn't get me anything other than the opportunity to come back before you. And ultimately, I've worked diligently with staff and with the community development director. And at the end of the day, as the alderman mentioned over there, this should be a straightforward process, not just from the unanimous approval from planning and zoning, but from the detail aspect of this is not out of the ordinary. The front of the building's the front of the building. It's all concrete. That addition is simply just an addition to the building, is straightforward, has no impact. With respect to the parking lot, if someone doesn't like it, we think it's integrated nicely, consistent with the U-Haul, but taking that to the side, that back section has no adverse impact. And again, it's subject to the same arduous rule of all aspects of the project. Both the outlots were subject to the same thing, stormwater requirements, the design of the engineering back there. So you're disapproving something that ultimately not only went through a detailed process. If you want to say, ultimately, again, it's approved subject to final engineering, it doesn't make sense. You're doing it backwards to say, this is designed. I have H.R. Green, who works with the village all the time, knows what the requirements are. If it can't be designed, it can't be designed. But ultimately, to say you can't add on to something that meets the FAR, meets the requirements, has to meet the requirements, I'm not quite sure I understand how that just moved through the process, ultimately not to have approval or to say, come back with engineering, but to say that we're going to disapprove it because of unknowns that you put through your process, that doesn't quite make sense. I've done this 16 times in other communities. I do this, I have $300 million of development all over. I know what requirements are for engineering. I know what requirements are for building. And to stand before you and say, this doesn't compute ultimately, and no disrespect, I don't understand, how that is decided in that way. Again, you might want to say, step back, come back with the engineering or prove up through HR Green, but to tacitly, wholeheartedly turn it down doesn't make sense because it's allowed. I mean, ultimately, it's consistent with the previous use. If anyone's been to that facility, it's Class A. We represented it as Class A. We fixed the parking lot. We've done everything that we should do above and beyond. We're paying sales tax or use tax, property tax. So at the end of the day, there's a benefit to the community, benefit to city council, benefit to, all here. So to what the alderman said, with respect to your staff, again, it doesn't make sense. It's otherwise either step back and come back with full engineering. I get that, but again, it's dumbfounding that it can go through P&Z, come before you and be where we are.
Not even that, I wouldn't want you to spend all this money for engineering and then get it denied after that. So, I mean...
I'm not worried about it, because I know...
I know, but I'm just saying, so, is there a reconsider? Go ahead, Alderman Davis.
I can clarify to mine. Mine had nothing to do with the engineering. I'm good with the expansions in the building. I'm not good with the outlot, the out storage units. So,
which would be...
if you were to come back with a different motion, I'm fine with that, but that's the piece that I'm against.
You certainly could approve it without the outlot, or without those portable units. I mean, if that's what you want to do, or that would make the difference, I would certainly accept that.
Right, so that's the piece that would have to change.
So I'm willing to say I would remove those portable units.
From my perspective.
So how would that work?
It doesn't work. We're all mixed up here. The vote's been taken. If there's a motion to reconsider, we'll deal with it. But otherwise, you'd have to refile and talk to Joe about the procedure to come back to the city council. The mayor may not change the votes that you need. If you want to keep roundtabling in here and the mayor wants you to getting explanations, go. I mean,
who has to make that motion?
whatever clarifies. Somebody who voted no can make a motion to reconsider.
So, Alderman Davis, would you want to make a motion to reconsider?
I'll make a motion to reconsider the variance change on the building itself, not on the property, not on the parking lot.
Not on the mass units, the portable units. That's fine.
Is there a second to that?
Who has to second it, though?
Yeah,
Can anybody?
Anyone at that point?
Anyone.
Alderman Santee?
I'll second.
Okay. So let's go ahead and have a discussion, on this, after hearing what Steve Schwartz has said, but also with the amended motion. Is there anyone who voted no, have any questions, concerns before we move forward with another vote? Alderman Cook?
I agree with Alderman and, about the odds there. Other than that, everything else is fine with me.
Okay. Any other questions? Alderman McClatchy, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll agree with those comments too. The pods in front, I think, are just a no-go. And as far as building along that side on McCullum Lake Road, I'm not for that.
Alderman Glenn?
Yeah. I can't remember a proposal where we split up what was presented to us in both two different ways. Attorney McCardle, do you remember that ever? I mean...
I'm taking the cards as a dealt.
This was
brought... There's a motion to reconsider, there's a second, and the reconsideration is to approve the plan without the outdoor storage, which are those three gold spaces.
And I'm amenable to that, so...
I get that.
We're reconsidering the first vote.
Right.
Which was for the entire thing.
We're considering to reverse the first vote, approve the development without the three gold outdoor spaces.
Okay, so if we... So then you have to take and you have to vote against the pods and then vote for the building.
No, you don't. You just reconsider the entire development without those three pods being included.
So you're changing
That's
what...
the motion to reconsider, and there was a second.
If you reconsider, you're reconsidering the entire vote, correct?
You can phrase it the way you want. That's the way I just call it. I mean, if it's unclear what you're voting on, let me know.
Yeah,
But motion to reconsider is clear.
The motion is to reconsider the entire project, the entire, proposal.
Reconsider.
So if we are reconsidering the entire proposal.
Reconsider the vote of the rejection of the proposal to allow the proposal without the 3 outdoor spaces, storage spaces.
Okay,
Pretty straightforward.
so then, that's fine.
Okay.
So, just to clarify the motion again.
Hmm?
I'm fine with the clarified motion, sorry, I'm just, Joe Gottemoller on behalf of the petitioner. Yes, he's willing to take out those units. I think that was the biggest
Keep your voice
complaint
up,
that
I
I've
can't
heard.
hear you, Joe.
I said he's willing to take out those units, and I think that was the major complaint that we had here. We're now talking about expanding the existing building and keeping for indoor use. Should be easy. And again, what comes before you is a use variation. It is not an overall plan. It's just a use variation. That's the reason why you don't have engineering beforehand.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments by council?
So what's our next step again?
Vote,
We will vote to
reverse the decision
to
that was
reverse
just
the
made
decision first,
and
okay?
approve the
That's what I thought.
proposal without the 3 outdoor storage spaces occupied.
Well, that proposal can't be made until we reverse the other one, correct? So we have to vote on the first one to reverse it.
No, one motion does it all, I'm gonna go home, if it's approved. If it's not approved, then they walk out the door and it's not approved. Does everybody understand the vote? Okay.
If there's a reconsideration, you have to vote on the reconsideration. And then after the reconsideration, you can make a motion.
You're telling me what the rules are, I'm telling you what the motion is.
So Alderman Davis decided that he wanted to reconsider the motion, but the motion is including the removal of the pods, so we're voting on that, right? Alderman Davis was the first, Sancy was the second.
It's a simple procedure,
Right, so
Dave.
the motion on the table is that we're voting for it without the pods.
Just do it right.
Am I,
I don't know what you just said, but does everybody understand what I said? The motion is to reconsider the denial of the petition, to approve the petition as presented without the 3 outdoor storage spaces. To me, that's not that complicated, but if am I over everybody's head, or am I outside my own? Okay, okay,
So we're good?
you got
We
it?
got a motion and a second,
Okay, one motion, that's all we're doing.
and we're keeping the motion from Alderman Davis and the second from Alderman Sandy. Okay. Any other discussion before we make a motion? Roll call.
right.
Please roll.
Alderman Davis,
Yes.
Alderman Sandy,
Yeah.
Alderman Glad,
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy,
No?
No.
Alderwoman Bassey,
Yes.
Alderman Cook,
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller.
Yes. Okay, so that motion passed.
Thank you, council. Thank you, Steve. All right, next item on the agenda is 6B, is revolving loan. Mayor. Yes. Alderman
I just
Sandy.
want to make sure, because we have an issue here with microphones staying on when people are not talking, please make sure they're turned off. I just ask you that, and because I was not able to turn my mic on for my yes vote, and I wanted to make sure that the clerk received it. Thank you. I want to make sure of that. Thank you.
All right, 6B, a revolving loan, Little Bo Peep Shop. I'm looking for a motion to approve the loan documents, promissory note and loan guarantee for My Little Bo Peep Shop LLC for a revolving loan in the amount of $56,362.82 for paying off equipment expenses, including the direct of garment printer, direct-to-film production press, and 4 heat presses, subject to the applicant providing a sufficient UCC-1 financing statement in favor of the city of McHenry. I'm looking for a motion to approve. Alderman Miller?
I'll make the motion to approve the revolving loan for Little Bo Peep Shop as presented.
Thank you. Second, Alderman Cook?
I will second that motion.
Thank you. Discussion on this item by city council? Alderman Bassey?
Thank you. Carolyn, in the package it said that this is not taxpayers' money, which I'm aware. Can you explain where the source of the income is for everyone here, please?
Doug might be able to explain more, because he was here when the funds were received, but they were from the state to issue loans, I believe, for Route 120, right, Doug?
Yeah, in the 80s, we got a grant or something from the state, so we've used that money ever since for the revolving loan fund.
Okay, thanks. And when we have this money, what kind of interest rate are we receiving?
So we receive, I mean, it can be anywhere from 0 to about 4% right now.
Okay.
It just depends on what the bank rate is.
Okay, so there's a little loss there, but that's fine. Okay, and then I just have, is the applicant here?
Yes.
Can I ask you a real quick question?
Craig, if you could just state your name and address for the record, please.
Craig Wilcox, 5908 Whiting Drive, McHenry.
Thank you. I saw in the application that you are listed as the manager, but aren't you in fact the owner?
Yes, co-owner with my wife,
Okay.
who's actually the majority owner.
Okay, and I did look at your products on Etsy, and they're adorable, so,
Thank you.
yeah, and I like the idea that you're in the west part of town, so yes, I'm completely in favor. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Any other questions? Alderman Cook, go ahead.
So what would be the percentage on this loan?
It's 8%.
8%? Exactly how much money is in this,
It's a little over 300,000.
a little over 300,000? So we're able to help other businesses if they do apply for a loan, right? Correct?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Any other questions? Alderman Glenn?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, didn't the packet say 308,000 was in there right now, and then it would probably be 200 and some after you take this out? All I wanted to say is just so the public understands also that on this revolving loan, that the grant money was given many years ago as far as, to do exactly what we're doing. So, I mean, it's, you know, nothing out of the ordinary. But I want to commend, my little Bo Peeps shop, for coming to McHenry, and coming to the west side of town, because that's the area that we really want to see a lot of development in, and, maybe this will be one of the stepping stones to get it started. So, welcome to McHenry as a business.
Any other questions, comments by council? Open up for public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to make a public comment regarding this item? See none? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Cook?
Yes.
Alderman Davis?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bassey?
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderman Glad?
Yes.
Alderman Santi?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Welcome Janice and Craig Wilcox to McHenry as a business. Next item on the agenda is 6C, Landmark School Historical Designation. Looking for a motion to pass an ordinance designating the Landmark School Building at 3614 Waukegan Road as the historical landmark. I am looking for a motion to approve. Alderman McClatchy?
Thank you, Mayor. I will gladly make that motion to approve Landmark School designation.
Thank you. Second? Alderman Glad?
Second.
Discussion by City Council on this item? Open up for public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to make a public comment? Jeff Arda?
Should be green, that's right. Just a couple things. I was actually going to talk about something a little bit above and beyond, spurred by Landmark School, but you told me to wait, and you were on a roll, so
Yeah.
I waited. But I always like to bring some history with me, and I first of all want to make sure that you understand that these pictures did not spur me to come here and talk to the City Council. But these were provided by Pat Wirtz, our unofficial collector of McHenry history, and it's a parade on Green Street. Everyone's welcoming the fact that the manure spreaders came in, most likely purchased at what we know as Some Other Nuts, or today it's Burnt Toast, or whatever, was the agricultural implement store at the time, built in 1893. The other picture is the celebration by the farmers who were excited about their manure spreaders. And again, no implications. I'll pass those around. And I definitely support the Landmark Commission, and it allows change. It does allow change without, with a certificate of appropriateness presented to the Landmark Commission. So, but the other thing, I gave all the aldermen the first submission to the State of Illinois Historical Preservation Society for National Register significance for the Landmark School. And this is the typical process. It's submitted to the Illinois Historic Preservation Society or Association or Committee. They're now under IDNR at the state. They go through it, review it, send it back, and so it's now going through a second revival, and then will be resubmitted. But the reason I gave it to you guys, it provides probably the best complete history of Landmark School. Its architecture, its transitions, its alterations, its usages, and et cetera, as well as some really good pictures. So I hope you enjoy it, hope you take the time to go through it and read it. But this brought up a bigger issue to me, which is the preservation of history in general. I was thinking about Landmark and, what's the big deal? And, a building really is no bigger than the story that it tells and how it relates to the traditions and the culture of the place in which it exists. And I was thinking about Don's Dairy Frost. I don't know how many of you remember Don's Dairy Frost, but I miss Don's Dairy Frost. I miss going there after a VFW Little League game. I miss going there after a pigtail game. But it just made me think about the little traditions, the little threads that add to our culture, that make us do what I see everybody working hard at here, which is to make McHenry a better place and a place that people want to live and want to stay in. And so these little things make a difference. People going by Landmark saying, hey, your grandfather went to that school, or hey, you don't know this, but your uncle helped build that school, okay? Those little things add up. The memories that we have about the places we live tie us to the places that we live. It's important. We get emotionally involved. So, I see other communities investing in our history. I don't think that this is we are anti-history. I just think it's been a long time. The Landmark Commission was organized, and help me out here if I'm wrong, in 1985. So that's been 40 years. And we have, I don't know, is Greg here today? Oh, Greg's over here today. Greg, give me the official name of your group.
Oh, McHenry Area Historical Society.
McHenry Area Historical Society. But, and I see these things, I see the people working, I see Pat Wirtz, posting pictures every day on our Facebook page for the Landmark Commission. And again, want to thank Monty for putting that up for us, because between the 9 of us at the time, never would have happened. We could have drawn pictures, but that would have been about it. And Monty did a great job of putting some stuff on and we get, I don't know, it seems like 50 to 75 hits per day on comments on historical pictures of McHenry. People do care. They care about the history of McHenry. But I'm concerned it's going to fade away, and we lose bits and pieces of it every single day. People move, people leave. I had, besides those pictures, I was at the farmhouse out of Colby Peterson, which we have two buildings in McHenry that are on the National Register of Historic Places. The Colby Peterson Farm and the Counts House on Waukegan, which is pretty substantial. Hopefully we'll have 3 with Landmark. But I found this by Bobby Jean Peterson, and it's from 1942. It's the Victory Garden. She ran a 4-H Victory Garden. If you're not familiar with the Victory Garden, it's what we did to try and supplement the food that we had during World War II. We love our veterans, and we were involved. Our community was involved. These little pieces of history tell us that story. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I have no place to put it, okay? At the Landmark Committee, Nancy Fike gave me a deed of Edward Owens and all his relatives signing over Landmark School to the city. What am I going to do with that, okay? My kids look like I have 6 eyes when I say, hey, you're going to need this, whatever. So maybe this is a time, and I guess what I'm asking for is, one, is consider the importance of Landmark School, but also of our history, And what I would like to see is not a reconsideration, but I think it's time to revisit how we preserve our history here in McHenry. And whether we do that with a committee or just a sit-down between, if we have any aldermen that are interested, with people like Greg and people on the Landmark Commission, and just see where are we headed, how are we going to do this. I really see you guys as the guardians. I mean, we have a lot of people working, and we've done a lot of great volunteer stuff in McHenry, a lot of stuff. When I look at the skateboard park and Fort McHenry and VFW and Ponytail Leagues, McHenry really is a town of volunteers, but sometimes the task needs some help from the people that have the power and the authority to get things done, and that's you guys. So I'm not making any official motion, which I don't think I can anyway, but for somebody to have a discussion among yourselves, okay, and see if we can't find a way to move our historical preservation forward. I was just at Huntley, and they have a historical district, and actually I wanted to read something. It's on page 8 in your in the National Register submission, but it says this. And this is about. And it's kind of funny because the people that put this together were not born and raised in McHenry, but in their study of putting together this proposition, you could see as you read through it that they came to appreciate who we were in context of the nation's history, which is what the National Register does. It says this building is not only significant to McHenry, it's significant to tell the story of our nation. Okay. But page 8. Residents in the late 20th century looked to Landmark School to cope with rapidly expanding growth in the town that carried the community further away from the small town McHenry that originally constructed Landmark. As a symbol of educational development and historic community pride, Landmark School embodies McHenry's transition into the 21st century, serving as proof to its residents that progress can occur without abandoning heritage or community. And that'll be the last thing I'll say. I've always felt like there's been a disconnect between those who want to see economic development in McHenry and those who want to preserve our history. I think we work side by side. I can't imagine Green Street being more attractive and adding to what you guys have already done to the district to make it a walking historical tour where people learn about the building that they're going in to eat at or get a beer or, purchase something. It adds. It doesn't detract. Okay? And so, I think it's time to reconsider. It's been, well, I guess, and that was the bicentennial, right? I mean, that's kind of what spurred the Landmark mission. Everybody was excited. So anyway, that's it. That's all I got. So, but I'll need the pictures back. So, okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right. Okay. I don't think this is a vacancy in our city. There's no place to find manure spreaders. I'll pass it around. You guys can do.
Chris Moore.
Chris Moore, 2136 Concord Drive. Landmark, since this will be my kid's last year there. Very important, as a family with the school, it's very important that this building does not go anywhere. It is one of the oldest buildings around, 130 years old, and it'd be a shame for it to disappear. But then, once the school closes, you have to figure out what you want to do with it, right? So hopefully the school district will have its head on their shoulders and do something good with it. Maybe we can have them donate it back to the city, since the land was donated to the school. So we can try that. But the only issue, which the school did a grant for the rock. They have a garden there, so they had to have that rock garden for 5 years. So they're gonna have to pay that back, that grant, because it's less than 5 years, so that shouldn't be a problem, because they take most of our tax money anyways. But it's, this building, everyone knows about it, everyone sees it. It doesn't matter where you go, down the street, you can see it. So it's, let's tag it and make sure that nothing happens to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to make a public comment? See none? Alderman McClatchy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank the Landmark Commission, the former members, and the members that are on it now. You did a great job bringing this before us tonight. Landmark School is probably the landmark of all landmarks for McHenry, and I'm glad we're at this point right now, so thank you.
Any other comments by council? Alderman Davis?
Yeah, for the landmark, I'm in agreement that it is a landmark, but I guess my concern is if we pass this and make it a landmark, how does that affect the city down the road, right? If the city takes it over, the city's responsible for it, now it's a maintenance cost going on and on. I know we had talked in the past about what it would take to get it up to code or actually usable, which from what I remember is a substantial amount. So I don't know if Cody or us or you guys have any other information to kind of give towards that. And then, again, if the school board owns it and they sell it, what, again, goes back to that cost. If someone buys it, they have to put a lot of money into it, and what's the realistic, realistically, is somebody gonna,
I mean, I think it's
$8 million because of my head.
Yeah, but they make it a public building. So, whatever it's repurposed for, if it's, and I'm just throwing this stuff out there, I don't want anybody to jump. Residential use, whatnot, whoever buys this property is going to have to put a bunch of money into it regardless. So if they bring it up to code and make it a public building, or if that's to keep it as a private residential use or a shopping center or whatever it is, what you're approving tonight or disapproving is a process that those developers or those buyers will have to go through to get a building permit. So you're putting restrictions on the exterior. Nothing could be done to the exterior of the building without the landmark's approval and ultimately the city council's approval. So through a certificate of appropriateness or a financial hardship. So anything that happens to that building moving forward will, on the exterior, will have to come before you guys. Come before the Landmark Commission and then you guys.
Right, and I think that's where my concern comes in, because we have the bank that's already sitting there because it's a substantial amount of money to get it, or to do something with that building, right? So, in the same point, this will be kind of that same
It could
thing.
sit there a while.
Right,
I mean,
so that's really where my concern is.
Right.
Not making it a landmark.
The school district's gonna have to, make some determinations on what they wanna do.
Alderman, Jeff, would you like to say something real quick? Go ahead. If you can come up to the podium, sorry. Yes.
A couple things. First of all, the Landmark Commission, and Beth, correct me if I'm wrong, the alterations were exterior only, not interior. Okay, exterior only. The second thing, Alderman Davis, is this keeps getting thrown out huge amounts of money. The money posted in the Northwest Herald on the article did not, that was above and beyond life safety. Okay, that was for an addition of a classroom, expanding the gymnasium, getting rid of the mobile. So the cost for what you would have to do to, and I don't know the rules for what someone might have to do in terms of that, but it's not what was published in the number. I'm not saying what the Herald published was incorrect. What I'm saying is that number was not just for bringing it up to code. It included additions. So the whole thing with Landmark, at least what they would tell you, is that this was in the process of reevaluating their five-year process of evaluating their schools, the physical characteristics of the school. They decided that they thought that the Landmark kids were not getting a fair shake because their facilities were subpar to other schools in the district, okay? So to bring them up to parallel, which would mean getting rid of the mobile, adding on a classroom, increasing the size of the gymnasium, increasing the size of the cafeteria. So that's what's included in that cost of the money. So until you've done your due diligence and actually have a number for what life safety would have cost, I'd like you to, keep that in mind, I guess is what I'm saying. And then also to understand that what the Landmark Commission passed in terms of requiring a certificate of appropriateness was only for the exterior, not the interior of the building. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. Alderman Massey?
I'm in complete support of this. I think it's really important to maintain the history of McHenry and what other property in this town is more of a landmark than the Landmark School. And I would like to thank everyone that got us to this point, and again, you've got my complete support. I would hate to see anything happen to that building.
Alderman Glenn?
Yeah, I just want to state, I was at the April 9th meeting when they were talking about first, as far as decommissioning Landmark School. Basically, the survey showed $13.5 million. But again, like Mr. Vargas said, he's absolutely right, a lot less. Prior, one of my constituents was very involved into Landmark, and she took and dug up to where actually the life and safety was approximately $4.5 million versus the $13.5. And that was to shock everybody so that District 15 could show a reason why to get rid of it. It is owned by the community. It is Community District 15, and I would hope that the community would be enraged if they would sell it to somebody of a private nature that wouldn't be taking and transferring the property to whether it be the city or what other public entity that could create something there that could be great for the community. Whether we would have a museum, festivities there of some nature, a learning tool for the kids as far as the history of McHenry, but something that could be used as far as for the entire public as far as education of the history of McHenry.
Alderman Miller?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm in support of deeming it a historical building. I'm concerned that we're placing a hardship on District 15 and limiting their ability to market the property, sell the property, and repurpose the property. I think a Memorial Hall up in Richmond, it was deemed a landmark. It took forever to sell. It finally sold. The people who bought it put a lot of money into it to turn it into a venue space, and they're struggling. I just, again, I hate to create hardships when we're on a growth roll. So I hope that District 15 has had some communication and feels that this project, that this designation isn't a hardship. Have we heard from them?
We have had conversations with them, yes.
Anything you want to share?
Not at this time. That was well before they even had meetings about it, so no, there's nothing that, we haven't met after that, so.
Okay.
So not this time. Any other questions, comments? Jeff?
More stuff. Just a couple, see if I can to answer that question, is that Dr. Wright did approve the application and submitting and going after the application for the National Register, which again doesn't restrict the property owner from doing things, right? I mean, and again, the certificate of appropriateness asks for it to be considered, right? So, why are you doing this? Okay, you know, and so, it's not an all or if thing, it's not a black or white thing. The other thing I would mention, and I don't know if you guys got it or not, but I know it was sent to you from Landmark, Illinois, to all the aldermen and the mayor. Maybe it's sitting in your email someplace. Landmark, Illinois is a nonprofit that deals with landmark buildings throughout the state of Illinois. And they sent they wrote a very nice letter talking about I'll just read some of it. Understanding that the building is scheduled to cease operation as a school, we wish to address any concerns that landmarking will make the building incompatible with the new use. In fact, historic schools are often excellent candidates for adaptive reuse. We have seen numerous examples of successful school reuses in recent years. They give examples. You know, and these transformed a vacant school into a community asset, winning them Landmark Illinois Richard Foundation Preservation Rewards, et cetera, et cetera. We have received grants, they provide grants for things like bringing historic buildings up to code. And McHenry has received grants from Landmark Illinois. I can't speak for them, but I know that they're very interested in this building and preserving this building. So, anyway, hope that helps.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Verda, just out of curiosity, do you know when this application was actually submitted, just so that the council's aware?
It was done in the summer, and again, the process is that it's submitted to the Illinois Historic Preservation, I don't know their last, which committee, whatever they are. And then they review it, make suggestions, and then it gets sent back. So, on average, most things go through like 3 submissions, so this is just the first. And they were very positive. And really what they thought was, I mean, just from my discussions with them, it was, we need more information about why it was important to the community. And I'm like, that's going to be easy. You know, I mean, I think that, you know, that's really easy to find. There's, so anyway, yeah, does that help? Yeah.
Thank you.
Just for the record, you know, meeting with the school district, I mean, obviously we want to be a partner with the school district to find a use for this, you know, so keep that in mind too. There is developers that look for buildings like this. There is grants available, but that was the conversation that I had with the school. So we would partner with them and make sure that we provide assistance to make sure that the use, and they get someone to purchase this property or whatever the case may be, to keep, you know, the building there. So that was never an intention of demoing a building or demolishing it or anything like that. So just for the record. So any other comments, questions by council? Any public comment regarding this item? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderman Glab?
Yes.
Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Alderman Davis?
Yes.
Alderman Cook?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bass?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Thank you all for putting the work into that. Thank you, Landmark Commission. Yes, ma'am.
Is it appropriate for us to thank you?
You can come up to the podium if you'd like. We don't get that very often, so that'd be great. If you can hit the middle button. There you go.
I think you all deserve a round of applause. I know it's not an easy decision, but I think the opportunity to work with the school board and the Riverwalk Committee, get these heads together and they'll figure out something. Historic preservation is not designed for hardship on people. It's designed to make sure that the voice of people is heard about important physical aspects of our history. So I think, thank you.
And thank you, Nancy, for all the work you put in. By the way, she's been great. Nancy's been coming into City Hall, getting all the documentations and everything else. So, Nancy, thank you for all you do. Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda. You don't have to stay, by the way. Yeah. See. Yeah. All right, see you later. Yeah. You don't have to stay if you don't want to. Next item on the agenda is 6D, is a comprehensive plan and downtown plan. I am looking for a motion to pass an ordinance adopting a new comprehensive plan titled City of McHenry Vision 2050, comprehensive plan and downtown plan titled City of McHenry Vision 2050 Downtown Plan. I am looking for a motion to approve. Alderwoman Miller?
I will make a motion gladly to approve Vision 2050, the City of McHenry Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you. Second? Alderman McClatchy?
I'll second.
Thank you. So we have a first and a second on that, and then we'll go ahead and we'll hand it over to Director Palarecki to go ahead and get it going here.
Thanks. We're gonna let Jeff sit tonight, 'cause, he had a little accident on the ice, in the ice rink. And everything, and putting everybody together, so, appreciate that. But I'm just gonna turn it over.
Oh, yeah. All right. Tell me what to do.
Right.
Tell me.
Suzanne's got the slideshow.
Okay.
I'm just gonna turn it over to them. Jeff Young, Shai Roosh, they're going to give you a presentation, and kind of an overall, overview of the comprehensive plan and the downtown plan and where we're at with it today. So obviously, if there's questions, I don't know if you want to allow them to jump in during your presentation, or kind of have an open discussion, if there's questions, but
Yeah.
floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I'm so used to standing in the middle, so, I broke it last week, so. I'm fine, no surgery. Thank you very much for having us here tonight. We're really excited, both Shai and I, and working with Ross and Cody, and you all in the Planning Zoning, Commission, as well as all your residents of the city of McHenry. When we look at doing a plan like this, there's really two components. One is, we don't want it to sit on the shelf and collect dust. And that's something that, I've lived that motto, as well as working with other, agencies that staff really wants these types of documents to be a tool that they're going to use every day. And that's really what you have here. The comprehensive plan for both citywide and downtown is something that will build the foundation on how the city is going to move forward in terms of anything it does with development or redevelopment or preservation, for that matter, that we just heard about. From the comprehensive plan, it's like a sketch. And you have an idea, and you jot it down, but then what's the next step you take? Well, you have to start designing and put together blueprints. Those blueprints are your zoning ordinances. So the zoning ordinance that you'll want to look at is based on the comprehensive plan. You want to make sure that what is the vision in the comprehensive plan can actually be built. And so this is that foundation that we talked about. You want to go ahead, Suzanne? So tonight we're going to talk about the process, how we got to here tonight. Go over the existing conditions, the extent of community engagement, our recommendations, and then we have discussion at the end. But if you guys want to jump in, that's fine too. Go ahead. The purpose of the meeting is to obviously present the Vision 2050 citywide and downtown plans. Do it in a public hearing setting per Illinois state law. And then also share with you that Planning and Zoning gave a unanimous recommendation to move forward. On the process overview, so we went through 5 phases, and starting back in August. So at the beginning I mentioned there's 2 things. One was that this document is something that's going to be used every day. The other thing that is really important that this document shows is giving you as elected officials and staff as well, is the confidence that this plan represents the community. I've worked on a lot of projects over the years where you have like a long-range plan, and you might hear from special interest groups, but that's kind of it. Or you might have a roadway project. You really only hear about the issue from those that live along the street. This project was really special in that we got to hear, and you're going to find out, the details on everyone that had something to say about McHenry weighed in on it. And the amount of public involvement we got on this project is going to give you the confidence that this plan is a reflection of what the city wants and your citizens. When we started last August, we started reaching out to different types of events. Want to make sure that we went to community events, festivals, things like that. But then also we wanted to engage the students. So we started getting into that broad spectrum of your community in terms of its population. And what's special about when you engage students, they're not confined to the guardrails and the limitations that we as professionals or you as everyone as adults, we know how the world works. And students don't know yet, which is actually a nice thing. They'll start coming up with ideas, and their ideas are just, they meld and mesh. And it's really unique that we had an opportunity to engage the students not once but twice. And you're going to see a lot of that in comments that we collected over these last several months, that you're hearing from them as well. And what's unique is that when you think about the year 2050, those students in the high school are going to be parents with families in the year 2050. So they're helping shape their future here in the city. Next, Suzanne. So as we talked about it, we have the citywide plan as well as the downtown. And the downtown is really, you have three downtowns, which is especially unique. You have the Main Street area, Green Street, and then the area north of 120 off Riverside. But collectively, how can we make all this work together? So this is what that plan does as well. Go ahead. Shai?
So we started by just taking a look at what we had in the city. So that's the existing conditions. We looked at how the city has gone from 2020 in the last 20 years. As you can see, the city got older. So the main reason for dwelling into the existing conditions was to look at what opportunities and constraints do we have in McHenry. And so one of the things we looked at was your zoning ordinance is very old. So that actually is an opportunity, because when you do a plan, you now can update that zoning ordinance, make things happen. Commercial redevelopment, a lot of people came up to us and said the big boxes that went away on 31. Well, some might say that's a constraint, but that's actually an opportunity, because now you can redevelop the area into something special. So that's how we have been looking at these things, to look at what opportunities do you have, what constraints do you have. The city has gotten older, as you can see from the numbers on the page in front of you. The median income has, median age has gone up, and then, of course, percent of population between 0 and 19 has gone down. So those are some of the factors that we've been looking at while taking in consideration what the community wanted. So on the next slide, again, we have some opportunities and constraints from downtown plan. We looked specifically at that. Traffic and parking were considered, whether it's a perception or whether it's a reality, it is a constraint. And then bike and pedestrian access, a lot of your younger population does want a lot of bike and pedestrian ways to move around town. And I was surprised to find not just younger people, but a lot of your older population also wanted, like bike and pedestrian infrastructure was a theme throughout that we heard. And then, of course, one of the constraints going to be your Route 31 expansion. How do we make sure the downtown stays downtown with those new construction details? So our next, for community engagement, we are really thrilled that, frankly, we did an exact year. We went out, met with the community. 7%, over 2,000 people, so over 7% of your population was involved in it. We have literally not seen more than 2% being involved in comprehensive planning. It is so difficult to get people interested till you're building something next door to them to pay attention to long-range planning. But we had people, we didn't just go to high school, we had high school students come out to these various events that we were at and talk to us. Metro Station, they wanted that upgraded. One of your young students went and educated himself on all of it and ended up giving us more information about how Metro works and what we should be doing about it. So that's how much interest we had. And at the very end, as you can see, we went through, first phase was asking people, what would you like to see? What are your
concerns. And then the next, we did a design workshop last November. If a lot of you were there, we looked at 4 or 5 areas in town to try and see what the development patterns should be, what can be done on those sites. And then we also had project website, a lot of surveys. You can see we got 650 plus survey results back. And then in March, we went back to high school students to share some of the strategies that we were looking at. So a lot of them come from your high school students here. So their civic class actually did, after the first time we talked to them, they did do a project where they took a part of town and how they improve it. So some of those ideas, we asked them if we could just put them in the plan. So you'll see those here too. We did at Shamrocks meet with over 250 people to talk to them. And then, of course, in May, we had an implementation workshop. We got some priorities and action steps worked on. And Art Walk was where we debuted the plan and showed all the strategies and action steps to the community to see what they thought about it. And we stopped counting after 750 people came by, frankly. After that, there were so many of them, and there was not one that said they didn't like it. They all wanted to know, when can we start getting these things. So you'll see after this that we've really gone through, and this slide is really interesting because what that shows is in blue is percent, those are your generations, age distribution, percent of your entire population. And then in red, you see out of everyone who came to these meetings or answered the surveys, what percentage was from that particular age group. So you can see it's very well represented, not with your population. So that's what we wanted to draw attention to is we not only got a lot of people, we got across the board, it represents your population. And the next plan is some of those sites that we had looked at to develop. The reason we did this exercise and the designs was so that when developers come to you all, you will know that the community wants these kind of things. That it usually, like Jeff said, this is your blueprint. So whenever somebody comes, it's not just for this one site. We've developed a full land use map, but it's almost like a development pattern map for you all to know, and for your developers to know when they come in, what kind of development does McHenry want in the future, and where does it want that type of development. So that was the purpose of the design workshop. We were here for a whole week, and people gave their input at the end of the evening. We corrected it the very next day, and they were able to give input again that day. So then from all this public input where we asked people, what do you like, what do you want, we got 8 main themes out of it. As you can see, walking and biking infrastructure was number 1. Then diversity of dining and entertainment, and mostly the entertainment options for kids under 21. That was the biggest complaint, was there was nothing for kids 12 to 20 to do. And so indoor sports and recreation was a big theme. Everybody loves the events you all do in town, not just your own residents, but we ended up meeting so many from outside. And so please continue holding the events was what we heard. Filling in vacant storefronts, especially in downtown, built that downtown momentum. Continue, that was what the people told us. And then supporting local businesses was really important to people. And investing in areas that haven't seen recent improvements. Two main areas were Main Street and west side of town. Those were the two main areas that people want to see some investment in, so you already made one on this agenda. Out of these 8 themes, there were five main desired outcomes as such that we came up with. That was small town character, people want to preserve that. They want a multi-generational town. They want a family-oriented town. And then they want it connected. So not being able to go from one area to the other. The high school students have an issue with not having anything to do, and the Crystal Lake Road being very automobile-oriented, and kids not being able to get out of school and walk and bike to places. Hang out, there's not a coffee shop they can walk to, is what I was told. And then fiscally responsible. A lot of people wanted to build infrastructure in a way that it could be maintained over the years and not have to increase their taxes for it. So based on that, I won't read the whole vision, but vibrant city and a destination for families, that tells you everything that people have wanted. And for downtown, be the beating heart of the Fox River, the place to be. And so looking at these two visions, there were 3 main goals that the whole plan is based on sustainable growth, economic resilience, and infrastructure and fiscal sustainability. So those were the 3 goals that all the strategies were developed to meet. And then so total for citywide, we have 12 strategies and 59 actions. And then for downtown plan, we have 3 strategies, main strategies, and 22 actions. So this is a plan till 2050. So you've got your work plan created for that. And if you see the next slides, the very first is that land development framework. So character areas is what we're calling it. As such, for each of these, you can see what type, the downtown neighborhoods, what does that look like, the downtown mixed use, employment center. There is a lot of layouts done that kind of relate back to these. So mixed use commercial retrofit, that's the part where we said, those big box vacant, or they're now storage areas, the shopping centers along north on 31. How can you do that mixed use retrofit? And you don't have to do it just there. You can take a look at any other strip shopping center, and anyone that comes to develop, you can take that as your base blueprint and see if it matches. It doesn't have to be exact, it just has to, does the idea work? Because then you know that those are ideas that your people already like. And then those neighborhood commercial corridors, those are along 120 and Crystal Lake Road a little bit, where, those coffee shops that the students want and neighbors can walk to it. A lot of those neighborhoods north of 120 west side of town, a lot of those people came by and said how they would really like to not have to drive to the stores on 120. They can walk, but because of the way 120 is and the layout of the commercial area, they have to get in the car and go. So some of that, if we can look at, that's how the model or the character area has been developed to show how you can make those linkages. And then there's the walkable residential development and the conservation residential development. Then we have this mobility framework, and do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. The big thing with the mobility framework is just as Shai was talking about on the land use side, here's an idea and you can use it elsewhere. And if you look at the right column of those little cross sections of some potential road designs, on the right column, the top two, so the top one and the middle one, they both talk about a collector road, and they're very different, but yet we're calling them collector, and that's to give you options. And again, these are just ideas. When you actually go forward with a project, you're going to look at the context, and really that's kind of what you're doing here. So if we look at like Green Street as a collector, which of those two would you apply towards Green Street? Well, if you did the top one, you're probably looking to encroach quite a bit onto those adjacent properties. So the character of Green Street really doesn't lend itself to that top one. It's more of the middle one. So again, that's just an example. And when we've laid out that framework for the road network, you've got the arterials, the red lines, which is 31 and 120, cutting through the city north, south, east, west. And then everything kind of just builds off of that. And so you don't necessarily need another arterial to handle the amount of traffic that 31 and 120 is carrying. So then you've got your lesser roads, your collectors, your distributor roads, so that it's easier for people to move around. But yet it's like right sizing. Does Kern Road need to be, I'll exaggerate, 6 lanes? No. What is the right size? What is an appropriate size for Kern Road or Crystal Lake Road? So that's really what is happening here. And then on each of these, as Shai mentioned earlier, we got a lot of feedback about not just vehicle mobility, but that ped and bike. And so you'll see these options, these concepts have different types of ideas. And it's a mix and match game. You can say, well, here's a great location for an on-street path. Here's a better location for an off-street path. And so again, what is the context of the road? What's it telling you? And then so these are just some ideas. And even you can see there's some variability on one side of the road versus the other side. So again, these are just concepts, but it starts getting people thinking about what the potential could be for helping people move around the city by walking or biking.
And so next we also looked at some annexation priorities. So we went 1.5 miles outside the city limits. So just in case people over the next 20 years, people come and say, we want to develop, we want to come in, you have some idea of what can happen in those areas so that you can negotiate a development agreement with them to say, if you develop it this way, that's what we'd like for you to do. So this is just an idea. Of course, you can't apply this, but if people do come in, that's what you can ask them to do. So those are the 3 big framework ideas, and then the strategies are based off of what those 5, desired outcomes that we looked at. And so you can see that one strategy could actually impact a few different outcomes. So small town character, if you look at this land development framework, applying this land development framework will get that small town character, but there's also, you'll see on the next page, I think it is, what's on the next slide is multi-generational. The land development framework also helps you get to that multi-generational because the character areas have been defined to be able to bring in different age groups, different income levels, all in different areas. So it kind of accommodates for a large diversity of people. We've got, and if you look at it, CP means citywide plan and DT is downtown plan, so that you can relate it. We don't have all the, 15 strategies and 81 action steps. We won't keep you here all night. So we were just trying to show you how you can relate it to the documents that you already have in your hands. So basically multi-generational is you want different housing stock. A lot of the high school students did say that there's not a place for them to stay on in town. The apartments are either not affordable or not nice enough for them, and the houses they definitely can't afford. So they were talking about was it Cary or Woodstock? Somewhere there seems to be the popular thing for your high school students to say they can find diversity. And then entertainment for younger residents, 12 to 20. That's the one big thing they want. And then, of course, to have multi-generational, the Catalyst developments, if you look at the character areas for downtown, then that should show you those. And then family-oriented, next theme was that you can see the trail networks, the activities again for younger residents. So that one strategy to actively recruit businesses that provide entertainment and activities for younger residents now are getting you two desired outcomes. They're multi-generational and family-oriented city. So our next one theme was community engagement theme is connected. So like we said, a lot of it, people were talking about non-car travel. How can we get from one place to the other, be connected in a safe way and without having to get in the car? And so citywide mobility framework that I've talked about is a way to promote that safe and healthy transportation network, and right-sizing the roadways, also the trail network throughout the city. You've got impressive trail network already, and so those small connections as and when y'all can get some funding. So if you saw the plan at the end in the implementation chapter, we not only have an action matrix, we also have a funding matrix. So you can literally relate to what action you're taking and what funding is available. So as and when your funding comes available, you can keep building your trail network and go from there. The development of metro stations, that seemed to be very, very much what people were asking for. And so not just the younger people, but one idea, this was actually in one of the high school civic classes as a poster, is to talk to Metro to get regular service to, is it Crystal Lake? Yeah. Crystal Lake, time it with the trains that get to downtown. So in case we didn't want to get a full service from McHenry to downtown Chicago, we could do it that way, so at least people could go between McHenry and the neighboring surrounding areas, and really the kids could feel a little bit more independent that way. So that and the older people from around McHenry would love to take Metra. It was for downtown Uncorked, where a lot of ladies mentioned that they would appreciate having Metra so that they could come in from outside of McHenry for that one.
Yeah, one thing that was interesting when we talked to Metra about when we were putting this plan together, since the pandemic, the one area that they've seen service increase is on the weekends. And so what that is telling them is it's special events. And you city that do a lot of special events on the weekends, but you don't have weekend service for Metra. That's a really a unique opportunity to engage Metra to get service on the weekends to help promote those events even more.
And that would really help one of those charrette sites that we developed, and the Main Street too. So the more Metro service you get, the opportunity for developing around the station increases, and then that connection of getting Main Street redeveloped is also happening. And then, of course, we can get a way to promote tourism would be great in the city. So those are some of the strategies that are in there, and we're happy to answer questions if you have any.
Okay. Oh, Alderman Santee, go ahead.
Just to make sure I understood this, when you were out at events in your own little booth, a couple quick questions. You mentioned Shamrocks, which is in March. You were there all day into the evening hours?
2 days.
But 2 days, but your time, were you there
Yes,
like in the
yes.
morning?
The whole
The whole day?
time that the
Okay.
event is, we were there with the booth.
All right.
And it was cold.
Yes, yes. I was there. I mean, I noticed the booth, but I was busy doing some volunteer work, but I saw you guys there. I just wanted to make sure you were there all day. And then the art in the park that you mentioned.
Yes.
750
People.
Inputs, I mean responses, 750
Touches.
touches.
So
Okay.
some people came by and just said, "Oh, this is great." Some people had questions. And some people actually, a few had not heard about it. So we explained what it was. Then we explained all the strategies and how it works.
Uh-huh.
So some were real heavy conversations, and some were just basically, "Oh yeah, I can hear, so
Got it.
we like it."
All right, thank you.
Alderman Glad?
You know, we keep talking about transportation and you keep talking about bike paths, and how do you expect to do that without interfering with neighborhoods that are, how do you put your bike paths through neighborhoods? Because those roads aren't that wide as it is, for one. Number two, nobody's gonna be pedaling it anymore in a couple more years. You see where the phase is going, everybody's got the motors on them.
Yeah, the e-bikes, yeah, sure.
So it's gonna be automotive, except it's just gonna be in the form of a bike. I mean, so are we looking at the future as far as bike paths for motorized bicycles flying around the city? And again, through neighborhoods that, again, a lot of the roads aren't wide enough as it is,
Right,
barely
yeah.
wide enough right now, and we can't take 6 feet off or 4 feet off for bike paths. So
No,
that's a
you're exactly
concern of
right,
mine.
yeah.
And we've discussed bike paths, I think, almost since I've been on the council, and that's a long time. So that is a big challenge there, to find how do you create that type of transportation network without impacting the neighborhoods and residents that you have existing at this time.
Right. A great approach you can do with a bike network is identifying first where you have gaps. And you might have, a half mile of a path, and then there's a 500 foot gap, and then there's another half mile of a path. And so those are some low-hanging fruits kind of thing, connecting your system that you already have. And so when you can start with there, then you start working outward, typically, from the center out. And, connecting points of interest. So, if you have a library, a community center, how do you make sure that people can get there? Right now, the city had worked on, and the county's wrapping up that bike path project along Bull Valley Road to get from the Prairie Trail over to 31. So again, it's building things incrementally that makes sense. Are you going to go put sidewalks or bike paths in a subdivision that might have all of 100 cars a day on that road? Probably not. But to have a plan first, to get more detailed and actually put together a plan, where are the gaps, where's that low-hanging fruit, and then you can say, okay, here's our more detailed plan that we want to do. And in this neighborhood, we're going to maybe not do anything. This is the way it should be. It's appropriate the way it is today. But over here, this is a great way to connect, to bridge a subdivision over here to get over to another subdivision, that there's this gap. But maybe it's a larger gap, maybe it's a half mile, and so it's more of a substantial project. And just with any project, you're going to have to evaluate, any impact. Is it such that here's a neighborhood that doesn't have any kind of ped bike infrastructure, and I've seen it where you don't build a sidewalk because that's perceived to be too invasive on the neighboring properties, but yet you look at widening of the road a little bit to provide a shoulder, and that shoulder basically becomes an on-road bike path. So it's evaluating things in an organized manner that makes sense with the context.
Another thing is as long as we're talking transportation, don't think we really, talked too much about, our roadways as far as our major roadways as far as getting around town. You know, we had a plan at one time to have an eastern bypass as well as a western bypass, and those things have just kind of gone down, you know, down the path, to where nobody's really talked enough about it. We used to have a plan that would take us from 31 all the way up to Curran, and Curran up to 120, and, fortunately, where we were starting off at 31, we didn't get, annexed in. And, as far as, availability of, annexations, we really don't have a lot of space around the city any longer. You know, 20 years ago, we had a lot of possibilities, and then, our neighbors kind of locked us in where we're pretty landlocked. There's a few areas there we can expand on, but not a drastic amount. Although we do have a lot of undeveloped land that is in the city right now.
Mm-hmm. Alderman Sainz.
No, I just want to make sure I understood you correctly, Jeff, that, you know, a lot of walking, a lot of bike paths, that's what people want. But if it's a constraint, a concern in certain neighborhoods, and if it can't be done, it can't be done. And we're going to walk away. I mean, not walk away, but, hey, you want to get to the bike path, you're going to have to figure out a way. But I get it, because there's definitely those neighborhoods around town. So, you know, on this comprehensive plan, it's something that, you know, we're going to work with. We'll be able to hopefully move forward where we can move forward. And if there are some constraints and it's just not viable, okay, let's move on to the next neighborhood. Makes sense? I mean,
Yes.
it's okay.
Yeah,
I want to make sure I understood you.
Yeah.
That will occur.
Right, and you know, looking at the whether it's a collector or an arterial and things like that, that helps identify, okay, you know, what is the appropriate type of pet accommodation along that road. You know, the higher traveled roads, you're not going to want to have an on-street bike lane. You're going to want to have an off-road path, whether it's a sidewalk on one side, bike path on the other side, things like that. That's, when you start to get into, hey, it's time to, you know, redo this road, whether the pavement's deteriorated and needs to be completely reconstructed. So, well, hey, while we're out there, let's take a look at the whole thing. I mean, you see it a lot. There's a term called road diet, where you've got roads that have been overbuilt over the years. Maybe they did serve a purpose at one time, but they've got 4 lanes of traffic, 2 lanes in each direction. But it's serving a volume of traffic that only needs 1 lane in each direction. So I've seen communities where they actually take that pavement and road diet it down to 1 lane in each direction, and then they provide a median in the middle, and then they've got space left over for a bike lane on each side of the road, and your footprint is still the same. So this is an example of something that can be evaluated.
Alderman Miller.
First and foremost, thank you very much. It is a very comprehensive work product. It was an honor and a privilege to work with you, and I know I participated a lot, so thank you for the opportunity. Not many surprises came out of it. I think 2 surprises for me is the community's overperformance of your typical response rate. So that really speaks volumes to me that our community cares and wanted to be engaged. So thank you for all the touch points that you provided, because it really did make a difference from the first time we got together and we thought we were heading in the right direction to your final work product. There was some change from start to finish. I think that was our community driving that bus. This gives us great work guardrails and a roadmap of where we're going. Things that we might have thought were important ended up not so important, and things that we just sort of took for granted became priorities. So thank you very much. One of the things that probably was most impactful to me were your many, 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 many pages of grants and loans available to help forward the plan. And I know in one of our interactions you had said, stop worrying about the money, we'll find you the money. And when you came up with I don't even know how many pages, but a lot of pages of grant money available. I was very grateful that you have those resources, so thank you. Which puts more pressure on us to hire a grant writer, because there is literally a bazillion dollars on the table here when I look at, a $22 million grant for a bike path, or, a $10 million grant for a walking trail. Like, I want a piece of that. So I'm grateful that we are very much looking forward and looking for a human to be a grant writer. So I just wanted to compliment you on the plan. It was, again, an honor and a privilege to participate, and I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Alderman Gleb?
Yeah, I just want to bring up, as long as we brought up grants, just so that most of us aren't being led down a golden path. I mean, yes, there's grants out there, but in most cases, they're matching grants, correct? I mean, it's not like they're going to give us 100% or even 90% of what the cost of a project is. So we need naturally to budget ourselves for upcoming projects down the road, in the future, where we'll be looking for grants, but we will be paying a big share of that as well, correct?
Correct, yes. As the saying goes, devil's in the details. Just in my time working in this industry, I've seen where it was easy to get a grant to start the engineering on a project for construction. So you're thinking you're basically getting a grant for something 7 years down the road. And as time has gone on, it's harder and harder for elected officials, whether it's a state grant or a federal grant, to commit dollars that far out for something that may not happen. So you get more points. Again, every grant's different, but the ones I've seen, you get more points the further along you are as a local agency. So if you're past that first stage of engineering and you've moved into actually preparing the contract plans, or you've acquired the right-of-way if that's needed, you're starting to check the boxes, and that starts to elevate you because a lot of these are competitive. The first thing is not to find money and then go find the project. What you want to do is start with a project that you want to do and that you're committed on, and then see what funding is available for that.
And it's usually found that the more ducks you have in a row as far as the project, then you know exactly what you want, you know exactly what costs are, that does help you as far as grants. I know back in the 90s, the city was getting grant after grant after grant for several years there of, again, shared costs, but at least we were getting grant money. The barn, there was from McCullum Lake, several different things at that time. Actually, one of our staff members at that time said that it was starting to be where we were getting so many grants that sometimes that was working against us for the next application, because they'd look at how many grants we were already getting. So, but yes, grant money is fine, but again, $11 million, we don't have $11 million to match,
Yeah. Any other questions, comments? Any public comment? John Smith, would you like to say anything? Okay. You're on here, so I just wanted to make sure. Any other comments by the public? All right, see none? Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure working with you all on this project. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Trish, please call the roll. Alderwoman Miller made the motion. Alderwoman McClatchy seconded, I believe.
Alderwoman Miller,
Resounding yes.
Alderman McClatchy.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bassey,
Yes.
Alderman Davis,
Yes.
Alderman Cook,
Yes.
Alderman Santee,
Yes.
Alderman Glab.
Yeah.
Thank you, Council. And I want to thank Cody and Ross and obviously the team that just presented it, and the residents that were involved in this as well, and all the other staff. So great job to all of you. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is discussion items, which we have none. Staff reports? No, go ahead.
So I had sent an email previously to the city council about scheduling a couple of committee of the whole meetings prior to both of our meetings in December. So the plan was on December 2nd to meet at 5:30 to discuss the Parks Master Plan that the Parks Department has been working on diligently over the past years. This has been a big planning year for the city of McHenry. And then December 16th, again at 5:30 p.m. to discuss downtown development. So that's something that the city council had requested to be able to have a comprehensive discussion about that now that the plan has been approved. So I just wanted to double check and make sure that we're good to go for both of those dates before we go ahead and get those scheduled. 5:30 p.m.
Right. Afraid I can't make it. For the 16th.
For which one? Okay. December 2 and December 16th, but December 16th was actually the meeting on downtown development that Alderman Glab had requested specifically, so if he can't make that date, then we would probably look to do that in another.
So to change that. Huh? Can we flip the topics to benefit everybody?
Yeah, potentially, yeah, provided, so we do have our consultants for the Parks Master Plan planning to attend on December 2nd, but I'm sure Bill can probably make that happen, so, okay. All right, that'll be the plan then. Thank you.
Any other staff reports? All right. I just want to thank the department for getting the ice rink back up today. Hopefully that'll be, depending on weather and how cold it gets, which I hope it doesn't get cold, but kind of hope it does so we can get open, but
it's not usable yet.
Not
so
usable yet.
let's
You'll
say
be
that.
swimming at this point, right?
Maybe for the weekend, but right now we just need to get cold. Not that we ever hope for that, but it needs to get cold so we can put some layers of ice on. But it is up and running today.
Awesome. Thank you.
Can I guess
Sure.
something about
Go
that?
ahead.
Are you gonna have signs for hockey versus figure?
Don't allow hockey on that rink. I know what happens, and
I've
we
seen
try
it, yeah.
to.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we know.
Right.
We try to, whenever we're down there, we try to deter anybody from playing hockey on that rink.
Because those, those of us that skate, you kind of fall. That'll hurt your body.
I have nothing further. Any city council comments? Actually, I do have something. RJ, is that your name back there? I'd like to talk to you before you leave here. I got to say, he's been coming in, getting involved in the with all downtown development, and I know I see you at Buddy's. You work at Buddy's, but I'd like to get you involved some way in the city, and let's talk before we go into executive session. I'd like to talk to you real quick. So, all right, so don't leave if you don't mind. There we go. See, we're going to sign you up for a whole bunch of stuff before you leave. So, but that's all I got. So, city council comments. Alderman Cook.
Crystal Lake Avenue and the high school. There's something you can do something with that traffic early in the morning and in the afternoon. I mean, can there be a stop and go light there and time it with all the traffic going through there? I mean, I hear complaints all the time.
Yeah, I guess I could follow that up. So we work pretty closely with the school district on monitoring the traffic there. We do have a 15-minute window in the morning and a 15-minute window in the afternoon, and Crystal Lake Road's probably not the road you want to drive down, but that's just because we're funneling thousands of people into one location and we're exiting them. Whether or not, we have a police officer there that's there daily, every morning and every afternoon. That works, quite frankly, it's not as efficient cost-wise, but they're there every day directing traffic, which works much better than a stoplight ever would, and the school district pays for that. So we have it optimized pretty much the best that we're going to be able to do with that, with the situation. We've timed the lights that are there. We put traffic direction out. We flow traffic out onto Oakwood to make a right to bring them back to the stoplight. We've flown drones to look at traffic patterns. What we have right there is the very best that we can do right now with that situation.
So no traffic light could help or anything else like that?
Not in my opinion, no.
Alderman Glenn?
Yeah, as long as we're on that discussion, I want to mention the fact that what I've seen is with the timing of those lights, when the people get out onto Oakwood and over to Royal and to the light, it's lined up all the way to Oakwood. They can't even get on the Royal because of sometimes they're back up that far at that light. So I don't know if there's the only perfect solution is they go back to the old way they had it and not have everybody come to one location.
Yeah, that's not gonna
You
happen.
know, I know.
So,
Well, someday it
so
may
we
have
do,
to.
we do have that stoplight there, and we do control the timing on that. And
Right.
I can work with Director Wertz to see if we can take another look at it. The timing on that light changes during the hours of school start and when school gets out, to help alleviate some of that issue. So if the stacking is too much, we can take another look at it. But just for councils, to refresh their memory, the school district paid for a study,
Yes.
a professional study, and they examined all the backups and the timings on the lights, and they paid for any expense we had in making sure that we had timing regulated for Royal and for Dartmoor as well.
But unfortunately, it did impact the residents of those neighborhoods over there dramatically.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes, as long as we're talking about lights, I just want to do a quick shout out to Director Hobson and Pat Gorniak, the whole crew, for putting the lights up in Veterans Park. They've been there over a week, and it looks like a lot more than last year.
We've been there probably at least 3 weeks now. Between that and downtown, the guys have really been hammering that out. It's gonna be great. We do all that in-house, just as a reminder. And so that is something we used to contract out, and it was over $20,000 that we would, and it was rising costs every year. And so, frankly, I think our guys do a way better job, and we get it at a pretty good rate. So, that tree lighting will be this Saturday at 5 p.m. As part of the festivities this weekend. And then, Toys for Tots Parade is 1 o'clock on, Sunday.
Alderman Santee?
Motion to adjourn?
What? Oh, no, not quite.
No.
Not quite. Any other city council comments? All right. At this time, I would ask the public that they would have to leave the room. We're going to go into executive session to discuss the performance of a specific employee. This is 5 ILCS 120-2C1. So I am looking for a motion to enter executive session. RJ, I'll meet you right out there in 2 seconds, if you don't mind. Motion is by Alderman Santee, second. Alderwoman Miller, for a second. Please call the roll.
Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Cook?
Yes.
Alderman Davis?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bassey?
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy? Alderman Glab? Sorry, I was